Wyll, Shadowheart, Karlach. There is a wide world of companions to choose from, and it can be tough to decide which one to pick based off of maybe your main character's goal or the alignment you had in mind. In this video today, we're going to crack into all of the base origin-related companions to discuss some team compositions, what companions like what, and some other things. I'm going to be talking about the main 6 companions throughout this video, but I will mention the 4 other companions you can get throughout the story based off of your actions. So just a heads up for any kind of spoilers that might be involved there. I won't be particularly talking about what those actions are, just that you will get them in the story. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things here is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. So with that being said, your companion comp does not matter for the most part. All companions can be respect to whatever class you want them to be, so I'd say choose 3 companions that you like the personality of and have fun. What I will say, and we'll talk about this more later, is that if you want to go with an evil playthrough, being particularly cruel and sadistic, Wyll and Gale will probably leave your party before Act 1. Karlach might as well, just kind of depend on the route that you take, but a certain action will trigger the latter 2 to head out. Evil characters or evil companions will stick around through the entire game if you're going good, unless you do something to personally upset their storyline. But again, outside of that, all companions are 100% viable, so please choose whatever makes the most sense for you and your playthrough. And that's it. That's your too long didn't watch. So if that's all you wanted to know, then please feel free to shut the video down if you so wish. But before you do, please don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. Each one of those things does help me out in a huge way, and I would greatly appreciate it. You can jump ahead to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you need help with any other subject matter, you can find the link to my entire Baldur's Gate 3 guide playlist below, as well as a link to my Twitch, where I stream Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Well, let's get started here on my best companion compatibility guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Loading into the game, let's talk initially about some general things when it comes to your companions. And it starts off really with their approval rating. As you go through the game, you're going to make choices in a conversation or action as an actual action decision that the companion will either approve of or disapprove of. And then that is seen. You can press tab, you can go to character select, and then you're going to see this approval rating at the bottom. Now, I don't ever really play with Astarion, but I put him here just to kind of prove a point. I play with Shadowheart and Karlach almost all the time in my party because A, I'm romancing Shadowheart, and B, I'm playing a really good, quote-unquote, aligned party. So, most of the things I've chosen ally with what Karlach has in mind. Astarion, on the other hand, I haven't really played with him, but the type of decisions I make wouldn't really jive with him. You can see relationship is neutral, character has no strong feelings towards you, the avatar. And as you make these decisions, you'll see that approval and disapproval. It's important to note that it's not a simple tick forward or backwards. Hey, you made a decision, they approve of it or disapprove it, and it's +1 or -1 point. There's actually severities to your approval rating. There's a mod you can download somewhere, but you can say like, hey, for example, I'm going to save everyone. Let's just say that blanket statement. And Astarion he skews more towards like, not necessarily outright evil, but more on the, let's just say, chaotic side of things. So with that being said, he might disapprove to the point that because I chose to save everyone, it's a massive act, and he grossly disapproves of it, and that's going to be like a -5 or a -10. Now, with approval, obviously there's really no bad portion of that, right? Approval is always good. But disapproval, if they get low enough, they will outright leave your party unless a specific act triggers them to leave too. So for example here, maybe you've been playing as Gale or having Gale in your party, and with Gale in your party, he has something where, as far as his story goes, he needs magic items for whatever reason. And if you kind of say, oh, well, give me a minute. Oh, well, give me a minute. You know what, dude, give me 1 more minute. I think it's usually after 3 times of delaying him, he just outright leaves. So that will be regardless of his disapproval rating to you. You might actually be pursuing a love interest with Gale, and you can actually trigger that thing that allows them to leave. And you'll know, you're not going to really stumble upon this and go, how did I not see that coming? Okay, touche. With the Gale thing, you probably didn't see it coming if he leaves you if you delay for too long. But most of the big acts within the game that could cause a companion to leave your side is something that is a very antithesis to the type of character they are. You'll know. You will definitely know what you're doing. They won't approve of. They'll let you know ahead of time. You're not going to blindly walk into it and go, damn it, I didn't know that could happen. And if you do, simply just save scum and just roll back a little bit. And another thing you should know when it comes to just general companion stuff, almost all of the companions can skew either good or evil. Some are very good and some are very evil. And those companions are really not so much the origin characters. Minthara, the Drow Paladin, she is evil. She is not going to be down for any kind of super good acts, and over time she won't like it and she'll probably disapprove and leave. Conversely, Halsin is very good, very, very proper aligned. But it's worth noting that if you're playing a good or a bad playthrough, you won't even get access to the character. Take, for example, again, Halsin. You won't get access to Halsin if you're playing a playthrough of the game that is good aligned. For whatever acts that happen in the story that I don't want to spoil, you won't even get access to Minthara because it's choosing one or the other when it comes to the actual decisions that you're going to make within the story. So, while we're going to talk about the party composition from an alignment standpoint, I just want you to know that you can really choose any companion and have fun with it. I don't want you to jump into this video and go, now I need to start playing with Astarion. You don't need to. You can only play with the companions you want to play with. And if, whatever reason they decide to leave the party because you are choosing things that they really disapprove of, it's probably because that companion would never have gotten along with the playstyle you've chosen. It's worth noting that the Dark Urge playthrough has the possibility to kill companions, but it's only if you fully embrace it, and you're not going to hit a point where you go, I didn't know that would kill the companion. You'll know. You will know that it will result in killing the companion if you get to that point in the game. And lastly, to conclude this section out, there will be portions in the game that you will have the chance to remove a companion voluntarily, and again, you will know. I just want to try to create as much of a safety net for you to think that, I'm afraid that if I don't play with the companion in the right way or do the right thing, I won't get the most out of this companion or that. Just don't worry about it. What I would recommend before we even get into party comps, choose the 3 companions you want because you like their personality, their character, their role, whatever it is. You don't need to like their class. Remember, you can respec all these guys at Withers to make them whatever companion class you want to go with. Just choose the 3 whose personalities you like the most. Maybe if you're playing with Lae'zel and you're doing all the stuff with the Kresh, with the Githyanki Kresh, then you just kind of want to have Lae'zel in your party, even if you're not really playing with her predominantly. Or maybe if you're doing the whole entire portion of Act 2 with the Disciples of Shar, maybe you want Shadowheart there. Play with whatever cycle and rotation of characters you want. But I'd also encourage you, play through one playthrough with only 3. That's what I'm doing. I'm using Wyll, Karlach, and Shadowheart, and I don't care about the other portions of the story that interacts with the companions that it applies to, because that tells me when I go through as a second playthrough and choose those companions, it will be really fun to actually experience something brand new rather than just kind of going through the motions. So please, I encourage you, play with the companions you like first and foremost amongst everything else we're going to talk about in this video. So with all that being said, let's have a quick jump into each one of the characters as far as the origin characters are concerned and talk roughly about their personalities and what they like and dislike. So Karlach, for example here, rather than going through every little thing she approves and disapproves, I will say that she is a particularly independent character. She doesn't like any form of submission or anything that would kind of tell someone else outside or even in the party to bow down to someone if it wasn't rightfully deserved. She's all about, I guess, a loose form of justice. If I were to kind of think of her on some sort of scale, she's really kind of chaotic lawful, because she does kind of enjoy, not romps into anything that's particularly evil, but she will take more of a gray route on certain things. But she will always err for the side of protecting people and making sure that people are kind of free to live their lives as they see fit. No slavery or anything of that sort, any kind of torturing, anything like that. Karlach will not like it. So she does err on the side of a true, lawful, good party, whatever you want to say, but she does also have some kind of gray in the middle tendencies. Shadowheart is very unique in that she has a really strong redemption arc that does side very heavily on a lawful good type of playthrough. Conversely, though, if you want to go with more of an evil playthrough, she can be skewed that way. She will have a pivotal point in the story where you can choose one path over the other, and that will kind of color the future of what Shadowheart is like. It'll even go so far as to physically change the character. But as far as her general personality goes, she is more apt towards anything that is about deception or tricking people or pulling one over for the most part. Like, she's all about that kind of stuff. But she does not like any kind of outright suffering. If you want to torture people, she's not as down with it. But by and large, she's pretty indifferent to any kind of issues that people have. You turning the nose at someone asking for help, she's probably going to approve of that, actually. It's not all the time that she would disapprove of it, not all the time that she would approve of it. It's going to be mainly based off of, is this person going through some sort of torture or pain, anything like that, then you know she probably wants you to help out. But if you ignore someone saying, hey, help me please, monsters are attacking, she's perfectly fine with you saying, nah, that's not my problem, guy. So this is one of the characters I think is interesting, that she has a very set story to be one that can be really, 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 really good with a strong redemption arc, or really evil with further jumping into her discipleship of Shar and everything of the sort. So she can fall into both sides of those parties. Astarion is a character that is, of your initial 6, probably the most quote-unquote evil. He's very sadistic. He enjoys any kind of cruelty or anything that really kind of hurts people and puts them down and out. Anything where you can torture someone, he's all for it. Any time that you can take the wrong way to do something, he's all about it. He loves any kind of hedonistic type of behavior, stuff like that. But he doesn't necessarily like jumping headlong into like fighting people. So if you say like, oh, you know what, I'll do something cruel to this person, or I'll do something that robs this person, or I'll try to take from these people over there, or I won't even save these people over here. He's fine with all those things. But if your response to something is just to outright hostility and attacking things, he finds that kind of cumbersome and a little bit like tacky, as it were. You know, he's very much a foppish kind of fallen aristocrat. So he falls to more of like the cruel, these people are beneath me style of behavior, and less like of the outright like I want to watch them bleed style behavior. So he's definitely more on, he is probably the evilest quote unquote character of your initial 6. The hopeless romantic Gale. Now, Gale is definitely a very soft-hearted character. He enjoys the good, little rejoinder, little witty banter, but he's definitely more focused on doing things that are ultimately very kind. His pursuit of anything that is arcane or knowledge focused as well is a big thing for him. Like any time that you would choose maybe like some sort of religious, zealous approach to something, like maybe, the necromantic book of the Fae, he would want to study that and pour it into the dark corners of its knowledge versus destroying it because it's some sort of heresy. He sees things as more pragmatic, He wants to analyze stuff, he wants to look into it, and as you take those roles as your character, he's more apt to want to approve of it and will outright disapprove of, again, any kind of open hostility, any kind of cruelty. Anytime you're not going to be kind to anyone, he's not down with that. But again, though, he enjoys if you are talking to someone and you do kind of come around and kind of slap them in the face with like a witty bantery thing. So don't think you always have to choose what is effectively number 1 on the keyboard, and number 1 is always like this is the good, nice, flowery thing to choose. If you want to be sarcastic, Gale is actually very much about that. But as long as you ultimately come to a good or kind decision, he falls in line with that the most. Now, he can kind of skew more towards the gray side of things if it's like, I'm going to do this one evil act, but it's for a greater good. He's fine with that. But if you choose something that is particularly overwhelmingly evil, like say perhaps just destroy an entire camp of something, he will outright leave your party. So he is not down in any way, shape, or form for those kinds of things and won't even stand for it. So keep that in mind as you're trying to navigate your relationships with Gale. Now, another character that you've probably wondered about is Wyll, and Wyll is your warlock, your master of the fences, whatever it's called, frontier, your blade of the frontier. Yeah, blade of the frontier, that's what I meant to say. And he is, again, a character that is very allied with good, right? Doing the right thing, trying to do right by people. It's always going to be his big focus, right? But what's interesting is he's kind of okay with open hostility. Like if you were to open up a conversation and immediately jump into attacking something, Wyll actually would approve it if it's something that's bad or evil. His ends justify the means is very much a way to kind of embody this character. And I think too is that he will always err towards someone that is just in need of something. That's always the way the character is from the stance even before you approach him in the game. That's what the Blade of Frontiers will always try to do, you know, stand up for the weak. It's why he has made a fiend pact. It's why he's a warlock. So you can see that quite a bit. But at the same time too, he's a little bit reckless, he's a little bit wild, and you'll see that bleed through with his character. He's another character that if you do something outright bad and say destroy a camp of good people, he will leave you. He will be like, nope, not standing for it. Blade of Frontiers does not do this, and he will outright leave the party. So keep that in mind when you are trying to build a party with Wyll. If you're trying to make an evil playthrough, Wyll will probably end up leaving you either through disapproval or because of a grand act you've done. Our last of the 6 companions is Lae'zel. And this is another character that is fine being outright evil. Lae'zel is very xenophobic. She's very arrogant. She's very quick to anger. She does not care about pretty much anyone else that is not a Githyanki in the universe in which you inhabit. She does not like Shadowheart very much, as you will see as you play through the game. I don't think you can avoid their interaction together, actually. But I think if you're making an evil playthrough, she's one of the only ones that will have like no qualms. You won't have to try to navigate any kind of relationship or particular conversational options. She's fine with anything. Well, that's not true. She's fine with any evil action is what I mean. If you are showing any kind of compassion, if you're soft on a lot of decisions you make, or you err for helping people out almost all the time over doing what maybe gets the job done quicker, she will not like it. She'll disapprove of those things. She's definitely about efficiency, pushing through things, and getting to the other side. Now, with that being said, she does start off very terse and angry and not so nice. And she does have, very much like Shadowheart, if you decide to go with a more good route, she can turn to the other side, I guess you could say. I mean, she becomes very warm and compassionate through that kind of development and understanding of her personality. From what I understand, there's only one thing that would make her leave your party, and it's anytime, and you'll know when this happens, anytime you would side against the Githyanki. Githyanki. If you did anything against them in the sense of like plot-wise, choosing to not side with them or choose to hurt them or attack them or say, hey, you know what? Gith are no good, she won't like it, and she'll leave. She's like, no, and then you're no good, buddy. So that is your breakdown of all 6 of the companions, just to kind of give you a general idea of what their personalities are like. So let's talk party comps. So as far as evil parties go, if you're looking for just the base 6 companions, this is a really good group for you. You've got Lae'zel here, who's going to act as your warrior, your fighter. You've got Shadowheart, you've got Astarion, and then you've got whatever your character is. Mine right now is a Drow Rogue. So this is a very good option for a pure evil playthrough. Shadowheart can be kind of coaxed into a definite more evil playthrough where she can make a certain decision. That, again, will put her on that route. The other 2, they're not going to have a single problem doing anything evil in the game. Don't even worry about it. Now, again, too, you don't need to keep these characters as their level, as their classes. Like, for example, here, Astarion, I've respec'd him into a wizard. So you don't need to have him be a rogue because I'm the rogue for this party. So if you want to play the fighter and you don't want Lae'zel to be the fighter, then make her a war cleric. Or you don't want Shadowheart to be a cleric because you want to be the cleric, make her a paladin, make her a druid, make her literally anything else. Yeah, it is kind of weird when you kind of consider their stories and like what they what they're going to be doing. Like, hey, you know, I'm a disciple of Shar. Well, disciple of Shar is a cleric. It's not going to be like a rogue. Well, that's actually not too true. That's not untrue, I guess. But maybe it's not a barbarian. There we go. A barbarian would make a lot of sense. But just do whatever you see fit. Their stories are also unique and different and awesome. It is worth noting, though, with this party comp, you will probably deal with issues with these 2 kind of bickering at each other. But a point will happen in the story where they will resolve their bickering. But it does keep for a lot of very fun conversation, especially because Astarion will have a lot of fun interactions with Lae'zel as well. Now, there is a 4th option to this group here. and it is Minthara. And Minthara here, you're going to get from doing something in Act 1 that will result in allowing her to join your party. Don't divulge, don't spoiler alert Minthara. Good lord, get away from her. But if you decide to bring her into your party, you will then have her instead of, I would replace maybe Shadowheart. I think Minthara, Lae'zel, and Astarion as far as a pure evil playthrough is the best as far as like all the way on the evil scale. There are certain things that Minthara won't like, but by and large, it's anytime you show weakness and compassion. She's still a paladin, but she's a wild one at that. So if this is, I'd say, as a pretty good just base, only using the 6 companions evil playthrough, but I'd swap out Shadowheart from Minthara for like a tried and true full evil playthrough, especially too because you won't have access to one of the other ones that's particularly good for maybe a good playthrough. Now, as far as going with a pure good playthrough, I think these 3 make the most sense. They are the characters that if you choose anything particularly evil, like a super overwhelmingly evil act, they will leave your party, which is different from the evil characters, because if you make a super overwhelmingly, sweepingly good action, they won't leave your party. I was going to think of an instance, but it's a spoiler, so I won't say anything. But Karlach is a great barbarian. I mean, you can just have so many things you can do with her that you don't need to keep her as a barbarian, like I've said before. We have Wyll here, who I've kept as a warlock, and we have Gale as a wizard. And you can keep this party comp as you see fit, mix it up, have it play with your avatar. This character right here is a ranger. Yeah, I know, it's heavy armor ranger or whatever. But still, these are the 3 characters that are going to fit very well into a true good playthrough. Now, this is only using the base 6 companions that you get access to. You can just have them all set up right at the beginning and then respec them as you see fit. And you'll see too that these 2 have a very cool relationship with each other. And Gale has a fun relationship with anyone you put in your party because he just nonstop hitting on them. Like Shadowheart and Gale, it's nonstop. Karlach and Gale, it's nonstop. And they'll kind of have interesting kind of introspective moments where they kind of talk about being on the opposite end of things, right? At one point, Wyll was hunting Karlach, and for Karlach to kind of divulge a little bit more about her time in Avernus to Wyll is a really cool thing to kind of listen to as you play through with these 3 characters in a good aligned party. You do have, of course, a 4th option for this one as well. I lied, actually. You have a 4th and a 5th option. But number 4 here is Halsin, because if you're going with a good aligned playthrough, you'll have access to Halsin. Now, the other character I don't want to show you in this playthrough because she has gone through a physical transformation, and it is Shadowheart. Because Shadowheart, like I said, has her redemption arc, and if you go through a good aligned redemption arc with her, she will change her character because she is trying to kind of discover herself and so on and so forth. So those are your options for a good playthrough. You have got Halsin here, of course, Karlach, Wyll, Gale, and then Shadowheart. You don't need to go with any of these in these combinations. Like I've said before, you can have any of them if you want. But it's worth noting that those 2 do very well together. Now, the last character I really want to talk about, and I don't want to bring up the character that follows them, maybe from a spoiler standpoint, but if you've watched the trailers, you probably know the character that Jaheria applies to that I want to talk about. But Jaheria will give you access to another companion, and you can get access to that companion even if you don't have Jaheria by doing portions of the Thieves Guild quest in Baldur's Gate City Actual. But you'll get access to that companion as well. That companion and Jaheria work very well together. They have a lot of conversational things that they're going to talk about because they have a huge past together, and it's really, 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 really fun to put them together. She's a druid. That character's a melee character, and you can sprinkle in Shadowheart if you want it. Because I would assume if you've taken Jaheria, you've chosen a lawful neutral path at the very minimum, right? Because Jaheria is not necessarily a good aligned character. She can definitely look at the gray side of things, and maybe even oftentimes the dark side or evil side of things. She's okay if the ends kind of justify the means in a very, very almost Wyll sense. And she's also very aloof to a lot of the suffering of a lot of people, like Shadowheart is. So she kind of fits very well into a party with the character she unlocks, herself, and potentially Shadowheart, potentially Wyll, any of the other characters that are probably going to get along with that. Now, that character she unlocks Again, you've probably taken somewhat of a lawful route to this point, so I don't assume you're playing with an evil playthrough. You could probably finagle her into your party if you're going with an evil playthrough. I don't really know how you do it, but there's probably a way you can, and I don't know how. She would probably be all right with most of your evil decisions, depending upon if they're like she's a guardian, she's a harper, right? So she's a guardian of order. And as long as you're not forsaking order, like if you're killing people, she's probably going to disapprove of it, but she won't outright leave your party, is what I'm trying to say. So take those things into consideration. If you do want to use Jaheria, a really cool comp for Jaheria is yourself as a druid, her as a druid, Halsin as a druid, and then choose another character as a druid if you want, or get her other character that she unlocks and bring it into the party. All those together make for a really cool kind of comp that you can have a lot of fun with. So outside of your origin companions, the non-origin companions, and the temporary companions you're going to get in the story, you've got hirelings. You can go up to Withers and you can recruit a hireling as soon as you have A, unlocked Withers, and B, you've discovered all 6 of the origin companions in Act 1. If you've not discovered all 6, he won't allow you to recruit a hireling. So go find them. Once you find them, then you can, once you have an initial interaction with them, because you can actually get rid of some companions and not even let them join your party. You just have to have that initial interaction with them. So plus recruit a hireling, and then you can choose any one of these. And sure, powerful beard. You can choose any one of these characters, and maybe you want to play a tiefling playthrough, and you're playing with as many tieflings in your party as you can get. Well, go ahead, get this guy here, Danton. And then you're playing a druid. You don't want him to be a druid. Well, then you can just respec this guy back at Withers. Or if you want to go with a drow party, well, you get this person, you get yourself, you get Minthara. So you've got 3 drow right there. So you can have fun to kind of sprinkle these into your party comp however you see fit. Maybe you want to play with half orcs. You've got this option. Another Gith. If you want to play Gith, you and Lae'zel. You basically can just choose one of these, whatever character you like the actual physical look of, and then you just simply come back to Withers and respec that character into whatever you want. These companions won't have any kind of personality. I mean, they'll have a name, a visual, a race, all that kind of action, and you can respect them and all that kind of stuff. But they're not going to have any kind of contribution to anything. You can talk to them only mildly, in the same way that you can talk to a generic NPC when you go from town to town. But it's a way to get a character that maybe you don't like any of the Origin 6, or you don't like any of the Expanded 4, because you have 10 total companions you get in the game. So you can just choose one of these guys and just respec them into however you want them to be. And finally, people have asked me what my favorite comp is, and this is the one I'm enjoying the most. I have not played with a ton of other comps. Even my evil playthrough, I haven't gotten Minthara into much of her spades or steps or whatever I'm trying to say. But this has been the one I've enjoyed the most. With Shadowheart over here, we've got Wyll, and we've got Karlach. And it's not even for the interactions. It's just the 3 characters that I probably enjoyed the personality of the most. Astarion and Gale, I'm not really a huge fan of. I've heard that Astarion actually has a really cool backstory that a lot of people really enjoy. Or the same thing with Lae'zel. Her initial terse kind of gruff personality kind of turned me off, but a lot of people have said she has one of the best stories. You really got to stick with it. Gale as well, too, is another one that I wasn't really stoked on in the beginning, but I've heard is really, really good. In fact, he, I think, is the most popular companion, Gale. So don't think that my best party is a best party for any reason than it is the one that I choose. So your best party is going to be the one that you like the characters of, they don't annoy you, or you just want to at least find out why they are the way they are, whatever it is. And remember, playing as these characters, you can choose to play as any one of these characters, does also unfold their story in a different way. You can understand certain things about them that you wouldn't be able to get if you just keep playing a custom or Dark Urge character and you never actually play as them. They have different portions of their story you get to unfold. But hopefully this helps you out in deciding which character comps you want to go with, or which party comp you want to go with in Baldur's Gate 3. It is a very hard decision, right? I think for a lot of people, because they're thinking to themselves, Okay, do I choose this one? Does it shut off certain quests? Sure, there are definitely pivotal points in the game. Like right now we're in the Temple of Shar, so it makes sense that Shadowheart is with me. But if I didn't choose Shadowheart to be with me, it doesn't change the way the game unfolds. There are certain things that you will interact with that will have a bearance with her being present, or maybe when you go into Baldur's Gate, Wyll will have different conversations with different characters, or maybe Karlach will have different conversations with different characters in the main plot because they are important to her backstory. But not having them present doesn't change the story at all, because you're going to still interact with certain things. And if they do need to be present, they will find the way to be present within the story. Like, for example, there's something that happens with Lae'zel that only happens when you're in camp. So regardless of her being in your party or not, it's going to trigger anyway. So keep these things in mind. Just choose the things that you want the most for your party. Either it's class, it's personality, or your alignment. Choose those things first, and then go ahead and go through and choose the ones you want. Because if you're not having fun playing the game that you want to play, then it doesn't really matter what the best comp is if you're not going to enjoy your time playing Baldur's Gate 3. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.